What's up, business owners? This is a question that I get quite frequently, especially from newer business owners. And the question is how much should I pay myself? That's a big question. And so there's a couple different things that I usually look at before I answer this type of a question. And this is what I do across all my businesses. I have partners in each one of my businesses. I own Easier Accounting, 60-Day Credit Repair, Thrifty Marketing, and the Real Business Owners Mastermind. And this is a concept that we use across the board. So I had somebody in our mastermind that asked this question about 6 months ago at one of our meetups. And I said, first off, how much do you have in your business bank account right now in reserves? And he said he had $400K. And I said, well, shit, that's plenty. And he says, what you need to understand is with what I do is I have to hold commissions for 90 days. So 150 of this is commissions. So he's left with $250,000 in reserves. So the question is this: how much should we have in reserves for our business? Because that's important. We have to answer that question and make sure that we're on par with that before we can start answering this question in terms of how much you should be paying yourself. This is just a general rule of thumb. Again, every industry is just a little bit different, but the good rule of thumb in reserves is 10% of what you do in terms of your annual gross revenue. So if somebody's doing $2 million a year in gross revenue, they should have roughly $200,000 in their business reserve account. This is going to make sure that business goes up and down. So if you're at a down point, you have the reserves to survive some of those lows. Also, when you're ready to scale and you're ready to grow, the reserves also gives you that cushion to push for that growth when you're ready. So 10 to 20%, some businesses say 20% depending on your industry, but 10% is a great rule of thumb. So that's the first thing that I'm going to try to identify before I answer the question on how much you should be paying yourself. I want there to be a reserve account. That's super important. That's the lifeblood of your business, because we all know businesses have ups and downs. So what do we have in our reserve? This individual right here was doing 2 to 2.5 million in revenue, right? So he was right around that 10% mark. So he's sitting pretty solid in reserve account. And I said, why aren't you paying yourself yet? And he said, well, I don't know how much I should be paying myself. He doesn't want to take from the business and hurt the business just to provide for him. He did a pretty good job of saving a bunch of money before he decided to jump out and go do his own thing. He's absolutely kicking ass and doing incredible things with his business. But we did this exact same thought experiment with him, put him in a situation where he knows the exact number. The problem is most people don't have a strategy. You're not having a strategy in how you're showing up every day. You don't have a strategy around your finances. You're just kind of winging it. And that's part of the problem that's creating the problems that you're currently dealing with. So reserves, this is what I want. Minimum 10% gross. Paying yourself. The big question, right? Before I'm going to go here, I want to know this. How much debt do you have? Do you have debt? And how much? What are the interest rates on the debt that you're currently paying? Because this is going to determine the percentages that I'm about to lay out here for you in terms of what we could do about this, and this, all at the exact same time. So if you're low on reserves, you're not paying yourself much, and you're carrying debt, then it's kind of like, well, if I don't have the reserves met and I have a bunch of debt, then I can't pay myself forever. That's not true. It's just not true. So what I've done with my businesses and other people that are in the Real Business Owners Mastermind is this exact same concept right here. So let's say, for instance, you have some of these questions, your reserves aren't met, you are servicing debt, and you're paying yourself very little because you're trying to build those reserves or that debt or put money back into the business, whatever it may be. So what I tell people to do is create a rule for yourself and be strategic about how you're growing your business, how you're paying yourself, and how you're servicing debt. I told them, take a look at your P&Ls at the end of every single month. So at the end of every single month, it's always going to show you a number. It's going to show you a P, or it's going to show you an L. In other words, a profit or a loss, right? If you're obviously showing an L and you're losing money as a business, you need to check your pricing, you need to check your efficiency, you need to check your systems and processes, a bunch of other things. And that's for a whole nother video that I've already made. So you can reference back to some of the videos that I've made in the past for some of those answers. So let's say, for instance, at the end of every single month, there's 30 grand. That's your profit every single month. So let's say, for instance, that you don't have any debt in your business and we haven't met our reserves yet. Let's say we have $100,000 in our business bank account, but we're a $3 million company. This tells me we're about $200,000 short of the reserve that we need to be at. And so I want to put a strategy or a plan together with this type of an individual to make sure that they're not just taking all the money that they're making, that 30 grand a month, and just trying to stack it in their reserve account to fulfill that extra $200,000 that they're short in that account. Why can't we do both is what I told this individual. I wanted to have $500,000 in the account before I start paying myself. I'm like, well, why can't you pay yourself and build a $500,000 reserve for your business at the exact same time? Why are you putting yourself in a situation where you're sacrificing so much and you're putting yourself through so much pain just to meet a specific number? There's ways. It's not this or that. It could be this and that. So instead of this or, use the word and. How can I get this and have this? In other words, how can I get my reserves met and be paying myself while I'm building my reserves or while I'm servicing debt? So if it profits 30 grand a month, what I'm going to do, and this is completely up to the business owner in terms of their level of comfort, and it also depends on where they're at in terms of their reserve as well, right? If they only have 20 grand in the reserve, but they do 3 million in business, that's a concern for me. And so some of these numbers are going to be skewed a little bit based upon where you fall on the debt and your reserves. Okay. So right here, there's the rule of thirds. So we've got 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand. Here's the strategy. If your business at the end of each month spit out $30,000 last month, you could go ahead and do this. 10 grand is going to go to your reserves. 10 grand is going to pay you. 10 grand is going to go towards servicing debt. The numbers every single month are going to tell you what you should be paying yourself. And it doesn't have to be 33, 33, 33. Let's say, for instance, somebody doesn't have any debt at all. Let's remove the debt. Their reserves really aren't met yet. And if their reserves aren't met yet, then we have to make a strategy around that. And depending on how aggressive you want to be, it's totally up to you. If your business, again, is profiting, let's say 30 grand a month, you could do a 50-50 split. You could pay yourself $15,000 and you could be putting $15,000 in your reserve account. So if you're $200,000 off of your reserve in a year, that's 180 grand. So in a year from now, your reserve is full and your business is still spitting out 30 grand a month. You no longer need to keep putting 15 grand a month into your reserve. You could just start paying yourself that 30 grand a month. Now, if you have debt, let's say, for instance, you have high overhead personally, right? And you're like, well, I need to make more than 10 grand a month. Cool. Again, I don't know your situation better than you do. So let's go back to this exact same concept right here. Let's say it's $30,000. You could do 60-30, right? You could pay yourself 60% of that. Let's say 66%, right? Let's say you pay yourself $20,000 and the other 30 to 33% is going to go towards your reserve. These numbers could be skewed however you want. You could pay yourself half and have 25% of what's left service debt. You can have the other 25% go into your reserve account. The cool thing is you can slice it and dice it however you want, but this is a strategy. You decide your own strategy. Is it the rule of thirds? Is it a 50-50 split? Do you pay yourself 25 and the business gets 75, or is it flip-flop? You could pay yourself 75% and then you could put the other 25% in reserves, or 75%, 12.5 to reserve and 12.5 to debt. The idea here is just to make sure that you have a strategy and your numbers at the end of every single month tell you exactly what you could do and where the money should be going, depending on these three things. What debt do you have? What you have in your reserves ultimately is going to tell you how much you should be paying yourself on a month-to-month basis. If one month you only profit 10 grand and you're doing the rule of thirds, that means 3 grand goes into reserve, 3 grand goes to you, and 3 grand goes to be servicing the debt. That's just how it works. If you did a 50-50 split because you have no debt, then you make 5 grand and your business reserve account gets the other $5,000. Again, I can't tell you how important it is that you don't necessarily use, my numbers and my examples or whatever it may be. You come up with your own numbers and you have a strategy in terms of how you're approaching your reserve account, how you're paying yourself, and how you're servicing the debt that your business has. Now, if this information was valuable to you, then I want you to go to joinrbo.com. We have a network of individuals that all own businesses, about 120 of them. We share information, knowledge, resources so that we can help the collective level up. So go to joinrbo.com, hop on a call with me, and we'll see if the group is the right fit for you. If this video was beneficial to you, go ahead and smash the like button and make sure you subscribe to the Real Business Owners channel.